Hi, my name's Ishmael and today we're going to be talking about HMO demand. How do you check a HMO demand in an area? How do you check if the property is going to let, and how do you check if it's actually a good area to get a HMO? Well, first off, you have to know whether it's an Article 4 area or not if it's not already a HMO. So find out about Article 4 areas in a different video, but in this video we're just going to be talking about whether you can let the property and whether there's a demand in the area and whether there's going to continue to be a demand in the area, which is the most important part. Not if there just is demand, but whether it's going to continue into the future, because there's no point saying, I'm going to let my property out for 1 year, next year it will be empty. So, how do we find out demand? Well, one way to find out demand of an area is by ringing up HMO managers. So you go online and you go HMO manager in Watford. You ring up the manager in Watford and you go, hi, my name's so-and-so. So I might ring up and I go, hi, my name's Ishmael. I'm looking at getting a HMO in the area of this street. Would you be able to help me to let me know whether it's going to rent or not and how much it might rent for? And generally, they'll be quite helpful because they'll be like, well, we want to take that property on if you've got it, or we don't want anything to do with it. So generally, they'll be quite helpful because they know that if it's a good area, they'll take it on. If it isn't, they won't take it on. So they're generally going to give you good advice. So you can ring up a HMO manager and you can find out maybe they've got empty rooms in the area or if they don't have any rooms in the area. So once you've found out from the HMO manager whether they think there's a demand for that street, then you can go and you can ring up another manager and ask them the same question. I would suggest ringing at least 2 if not 3 managers in the area. If you can find more, ring more. Ring every single manager that covers that area. The reason why, because some people might have a different opinion to the area, some people might have their properties let, and some might not have their properties let. The next thing to do is to check quality of properties in the area. So you can go on the agents' websites and you can go and find out what is generally to let in the area. Is it a high quality, is it a medium, or is it a low quality? If you can find out the quality of the property, you'll find out whether there is very high demand. Because if low quality properties are renting out, you know that if you put a medium to high quality property on the market, it's going to rent out like that. Why? Because if people are happy to take a low quality property, they're only taking it because there's no medium and high quality properties left. So if they're happy to take a low quality property, you know that there's a demand for properties in the area. Very good way of finding out. Another way to find out if there's a demand for properties in the area is ring up the HMO manager, or if you've already rung them, try and get your friend to ring it or do it on a different day, so hopefully you get through to a different person. But ring up the HMO manager and say you're a tenant. Now pretend you're a tenant and just say, hi, my name's so-and-so and I was looking for a property in this area. Have you got anything available? And they would be able to tell you what there is available. Now generally it's better to go online to find out if they've got anything available, but if you can't find anything online, you can ask them if they've got anything available or how often it comes up, because you don't want to be causing a nuisance and leading people on. So generally try and go online. If you can't go online or they have nothing, then ring them up and just say, is there something available in the area? And if so, how much is it or what condition? And if they don't have anything available, just say, well, how often do you get these things come up? Do you get them coming up regularly, or are they very rare? Are you able to is there a waiting list, and how long am I going to have to wait? This information will really, really help you on knowing whether there's a demand in the area at the time. So the other way to find out if there's a demand in the area, because there's lots of ways, the other way to find out if there's a demand in the area is go on to sparerooms.com or Open Rent. Now Open Rent is one site which doesn't have a lot of HMOs on there, but there are HMOs on there, so there are rooms to let on there, but not that many. However, if you can find some on there, great. If not, then just go on to Spare Rooms, because Spare Rooms is all about, as it says, a spare room. Have you got a room to let? And you can type in your area, type in your postcode and find out in that area if there is actually 1, 2, 3 rooms to let. You can also find out what people want for the room, so you can find out how many are let. And not only that, but it's got to let and looking for. So you can compare how many properties are to let and how many people are looking for properties. So you might find that there's 10 properties to let and there's 10 people looking for properties. Now not everyone posts and says I'm looking for a property and makes a profile to say give me a property if you've got one. So you know that if there's a 50-50 balance, then you know that there is a higher demand than supply. Because personally, I've not rented a HMO, but personally, if I was to rent a HMO and I would be looking for a room, I wouldn't go and put up a profile and say, contact me if you've got a room. I would ring up people and say, I'm looking for a room, I'm looking for a room, I'm looking for a room. Have you got anything? Have you got anything? I'd go on websites, I'd go on Spare Room and I'd go, have you got any properties in this area? Come on, let me find something. And I'd go and find the properties, actively looking. I wouldn't go and expect the landlord to come to me and say, I've got a property, are you willing to let it? So if you could see that there is the same amount, I would say there's a very, very good demand. But if you can see that there are more people looking than properties available, there's a very good demand. And if you say that there are more properties than people, then you have to weigh up. So I would say a 1-to-2 ratio is probably quite good, which means that if there is, for example, 2 people who have a properties advertised to let, so 2 people say, I've got a property, so 2 landlords there, to let a property, and there's 1 person looking, I think that that's a good ratio. If there's 3 properties for every 1 person looking, I think the ratio is starting to get iffy, and I would consider whether it's a good area or not. It all depends on the quality of the properties versus the people looking. If all the qualities of the properties are bad, or 3 for 1 are bad, then I would say yes, there is still a demand. But if those are average quality or good quality, I would say that there is not a demand or a decent demand in the area, which will guarantee you having a good tenant fill quickly when you have an empty property. So if your room becomes empty, 1 room out of 3, out of 4, out of 7, then you might find that your tenants don't come in very quickly. So you want tenants to come in very, very fast, so you don't want empty rooms because you lose money if you have an empty room. So for this reason, I think you have to really consider that 3-to-1, 3 properties to 1 person looking is the absolute worst case scenario. I would say personally 2-to-1, I wouldn't go anything more than that. Some people go more, some people go 4-to-1, but I wouldn't go that far. I would go 2-to-1. So this is how you'd find demand in an area at the time. You can also find on Rightmove, on Zoopla, they also have properties to let, where you put in and you look for property, and sometimes it says the whole building, and it will say 6-room bedroom HMO for £2 grand or £3 grand a month or whatever. And sometimes it will say room to let in a 2-bed or 4-bed or a 6-bed property. And so these are ways where you can find out if there's a lot of rooms advertised to let, then you know there isn't a demand. If there's nothing advertised, you know there's a demand. So this is how you find out if there's a current demand in the market. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, whack that bell notification icon to get notified of videos coming out each and every week.